After taking players to the year 10,000 BC with Far Cry Primal, developers Ubisoft Montreal and Toronto returned to the franchise's most celebrated roots by promising to give fans of the last few Far Cry games everything they enjoyed and more with the 5th numbered entry in the Far Cry series. As expected, the formula established then 6 years ago was still as fun as it was when people were actually quoting the standout character from Far Cry 3. Utilizing the map from Far Cry 5, Far Cry New Dawn doesn't go back in time to present a spin-off, but produces the first actual canonical sequel in the franchise's history, featuring homicidal twins, more pink than a bottle of Pepto-Bismol, and of course, firefights aplenty. Just like Far Cry 5, New Dawn allows the player to take control of an avatar actually created by the gamer with the limited tools provided. Given a nickname of Cap, short for Captain of Security, the player will encounter the insanity that has taken hold of the fictional Hope County, Montana, after Far Cry 5's antagonist Joseph Seed was proven right when he proclaimed he knew what was going to happen to the world thanks to the voice of God speaking to him. Even after the bombs dropped, Hope County is a diverse environment featuring hidden treasures, collectibles such as MP3 players, premium fishing spots, the stereotypical conquerable outpost, and a plethora of wildlife including mutated mammals. With a muted protagonist, the player will most likely see the Cap as a digitized version of themselves taking on vicious raiders headed by Mickey and Lou, sociopathic twins who have no problem killing a person for not providing them the goods necessary to make their lives better. As per the norm, the player must take their character throughout the map, while completing missions, recruiting supporters, and having the stereotypical acid trip scenario that is meant to be a moment of spiritual evolution. While Primal featured fundamental changes to the gameplay tying into the primitive setting, New Dawn feels like familiar territory if someone has played the previously numbered sequels, meaning jumping in and completing the game is pretty straightforward for those who know how not to get overwhelmed. After 15 hours, I gained the majority of the trophies, liberated all the outposts on the highest difficulty, as well as the newly implemented expeditions, and finished the main story, with the latter taking about 4 to 5 hours of that 15-hour time. After having players questioning their beliefs and discussing the actual ending of Far Cry 5, Ubisoft Montreal burns everything down and allows those who survived the bombing to rebuild with the same mindset of their predecessors by utilizing the hard work of others to make a personal profit while claiming to help the oppressed. New Dawn doesn't shake things up when it comes to what made Far Cry 5 so much fun in regards to gameplay, as the player is stuck in a first-person environment surrounded by homicidal enemies, animals both hostile and passive, missions aplenty, outposts to liberate, various vehicles made for multiple terrains while featuring another incredible soundtrack, and guns, guns, guns. The player's character has the task of working alongside the community of Prosperity, headed by a minor character and her daughter players of Far Cry 5 will immediately recognize. The goal of Prosperity is to live without being held under the motocross boots of Mickey and Lou. In Far Cry 5, the protagonist gained resistance points by completing main story missions, side quests, and taking part in random events, such as freeing enslaved townspeople to progress the narrative. New Dawn removes the resistance point system and sticks to something closer to what Primal offered by having Cap recruit specialists who will help build facilities at Prosperity. Acquiring specialists involves a sole mission that can range from having a standoff with Lou and Mickey's highwaymen to diving underwater in search of a lost item for a tweaked-out scientist. Ethanol is also needed to build those facilities, an item that most emphatically comes with capturing outposts. The presentation of outposts has been changed for the better in New Dawn, as players can scrap every captured outpost individually, with each figurative reset bringing forth harder enemies until the challenge reaches its max level of 3-star difficulty. The higher the difficulty, the more ethanol given to the player when successful in capturing that outpost. With the map of New Dawn being about half the size of Fives', there aren't any bosses outside of those final missions, meaning there isn't a feeling of true progression or skill challenge, similar to what was seen in 5, when one boss provided a sniper duel, while the other was a mystical firefight. The nameless AI enemies are their usual dumb selves a majority of the time, but have a big change associated with them: visible levels. Above each enemy is a segmented, color-coded bar, with level 4 enemies being elite adversaries that will take a lot or a little to put down, depending on what type of weapon the player has in Cap's inventory. As the player builds up the weapons bench section of prosperity while collecting items for crafting, Cap can create weapons that feature higher damage rates and varied ammo, such as armor-piercing bullets that will one-shot an elite enemy. Tying into this weapon leveling system are microtransactions. If players don't want to search throughout the world or complete more missions than the ones solely associated with the story, such as the 10 treasure missions, they can spend real money to buy points, but buying those high-level weapons is only available after upgrading the weapons bench to max, a process that will only be completed about 2/3 into the story. A majority of players will most likely not need to spend an extra dime to get the high-powered weapons they want by the game's final third, including a saw blade launcher featuring auto-targeting. A majority of the missions play the same as any Far Cry game before it, but there are some variations to the offerings that add a few extra hours of fun, including the implementation of expeditions. Being taken to a specific section off the visible world map, like Alcatraz, the player is given the task of invading a stronghold, retrieve an item, and return it to the pickup spot. Between the retrieval and the pickup is 2 minutes of intense action, as the player must survive a plethora of enemies coming to take back what's theirs. Expeditions are some of the most fun a majority of players will have in New Dawn. Returning from Far Cry 5 is the buddy system, Guns for Hire. By helping or saving certain NPCs, the player can recruit a partner to work alongside them in battle, like longtime fan favorite Herc, and of course, a loyal canine companion. Unlike Far Cry 5, the specialists don't get involved in battle like Nick Rye providing air support. Completely gone from Far Cry 5 was crafting pouches and holsters by hunting animals and fishing, with perk points being used for upgrades instead. Perk points are gained by completing various challenges, such as killing a certain number of enemies with a specific weapon, or even completing some trophies or achievements. Used in the skill tree, perk points will allow the player to hold more ammo, run longer, gain items like the wingsuit, and even attain some supernatural powers, such as double jumping. Co-op is back in Far Cry New Dawn, with 2 friends having the ability to play through the game together, but only the host player gains progress, meaning the second player is essentially a buddy character. Far Cry Arcade doesn't return with New Dawn, nor do the live event challenges. Technically, New Dawn is one of the rougher offerings in the franchise, featuring various minor glitches, ranging from enemies getting stuck in rocks to weird audio cues, including grating static. One of the oddest glitches happened when a call for reinforcements during an outpost liberation gone wrong resulted in no more enemies spawning, and me having to restart from the most recent checkpoint. New Dawn also features an open world game flaw that for some reason continues to occur in this franchise, with a single save slot being available to the player. Far Cry New Dawn is a Far Cry game if there ever was one, by following the formula of Far Cry 3. The story is pretty much paint by the numbers, with the gameplay mostly being the same as what was offered in Far Cry 5, with a leveling system tacked on. The only real innovations, the handling of outposts and the addition of expeditions, definitely adds more fun to the mayhem, but doesn't remove the feeling of been there, done that. Like a majority of the other Far Cry games that came before it, New Dawn feels all too familiar. The gameplay is still exceptionally fun when a player is forced to shoot it out with a bunch of masked people rocking helmets and shotguns, while attempting to make a great escape via helicopter, or trying to figure out the best route when liberating an outpost. The story struggles in the same way as previous Far Cry games, with the main antagonists rarely showing up, and when they do arrive, they are stereotypical at best. Certain gameplay implementations from Primal and Far Cry 5, such as base building and guns for hire, are dumbed down, but adjustments to things like how outposts function in the world is fantastic and long needed. At a smaller scale than both its direct predecessors, New Dawn definitely feels like something that's between impressive DLC and a full offering from a generation ago. For those who've enjoyed everything Far Cry games have offered since Far Cry 3, this will be a treat. But those who either don't care or are burned out by the franchise in its current form won't find much to enjoy, even when the irony of a person using their helmet to crack someone else's skull is on full display.
Huh. Okay.
You done?